Do you finally want 2024 to be your year? Do you actually want to follow through with goals and resolutions? Well, here are my top 5 favorite books that get you on the right track. And welcome to the Heroes Forge podcast, where you help millennial geeks, gamers, and cosplayers live their most strongest, confident, badass, sexy, heroic life possible. I am Coach Troy Bushido, and at the time of this recording, we are in the holiday season. I hope you guys have been having a great holiday so far. But when the holidays are done, we get to the new year, and in the new year, you got resolutions, got them goals. But here's the problem. I don't know about you, but 2023 has kicked everybody in the balls. I'm not kidding. Especially the millennial generation. They are basically getting dragged into the dirt by the boomers. They are getting kind of ignored by Gen X because Gen X is just surviving. They're getting by. And then they are seeing Gen Z and they're like, oh God, you're in for it, bruh. And it really feels like the world, in a grand picture, in a grand scheme of things, has not had a good 2023. And I hate to be the pessimist, but I gotta give you the no BS assessment. Like a good coach and a good corner man, I'm in your corner after you got knocked down by 2023. And I gotta look at you dead in the eye and tell you what you got hit with. You got hit with the world in 2023. We all did. But like that good quarter man, I got 60 seconds, or in this case, a lot more time, to game plan with you on how to get through the next round of life, that is 2024. So in today's episode, I'm going to share with you my top 5 favorite books to get the gears turning. Not only have you feel more uplifted, but feel just more ready to take on goals of 2024. Because it's already going to be an uphill battle. It's already going to be on a harder difficulty. We already ramped up things from World of Warcraft to fucking Elden Ring. Not even Dark Souls, we bypassed that. We're in Elden Ring now. We're gonna be having to battle a little bit harder, be a little bit more diligent, be a little bit more resilient, giving up less, taking it on more, and taking it to the chin more in order to come out on top by 2025. So are you ready to do this? I'm gonna keep this a short, sweet, simple episode. Let's just get started. My first book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, by Mark Manson. This book has been out for a while, but I love this book and I absolutely listen to the audiobook every fucking year. You know, I said fuck, I might as well just keep cursing. It's one of those anti-self-help, self-development books. It wants the best for you. It is an optimist at its soul, but it's also very much a realist, at least from the author's perspective. It really kind of hits you and says, yo, you are special, yet you are not special. You are uniquely you and therefore valuable to the world, but there is nothing uniquely different about you. You're going through the same shit somebody else has gone through. And in essence, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck tells you clearly that you only have a finite of things to care about and worry about and put your energy towards in this world at this time. In fact, just to say plainly, you have a limited fucks to give. And this is the art of figuring out where to give your fucks. You see, according to the author, a lot of your happiness comes from the other side of your problems. In fact, a lot of times fulfillment, the art of fulfillment, is just the art of solving problems. In fact, you'll be more happy and more fulfilled if you're solving the problems you want to solve. Even success, having success, will bring it on its own share of problems, its new share of problems. Sometimes being even more of a success brings on even bigger problems, and that is okay. That's the art of life. That is the art of living. That's what makes us human. Finding problems to solve and feeling fulfilled through the process of solving those problems. And quite frankly, I gotta put this book in a little bit of perspective, because it was written in, I think, the mid to early 2010s. And I ain't gonna lie to you, compared to 2023, 2024, it was a different time. At the time of the writing and the recording of the audiobook, millennials, the millennial generation, was going through a massive existential crisis because we had all the materials we needed. We had, social medias at the top of their prime, Instagram at its peak. We had Snapchat still being relevant. We had Facebook slowly turning into basically 4chan, but it was still bringing value. And then pre-COVID, we got into a material peak. The peak of Amazon Prime, the rise of TikTok, the muddling of certain resources. But now, post-COVID, we are in a massive divide. We are now in a material crisis and an existential crisis. Because it looks like the best materials and resources are now hoarded by the top 1%. And then, letting the middle class, let's just call it the middle class and the lower class and the low resources and the mid resources, fight for the scraps. So now we have to be a lot more diligent about where we put our energy, why we put our energy, and putting things in a perspective of, yeah, this is the world we live in. But then again, we're not alone. We're not one snowflake. We are part of a flurry. We're in this together. Really mind your resources. Mind the fucks you give. So yeah, I've been reading that book, or at least listening to the audiobook yearly, annually, and it helps ground me back into perspective. To go a little bit more towards the opposite end, my second favorite book for goal setting is Embrace Your Weird by Felicia Day. I love Felicia Day. She is the sweetheart in geek community when it comes to just geek-based pop culture, being an actress, being a performer. She wrote a number of books. This one is a little bit more hands-on, or a little more how-to, and it's called Embrace Your Weird. It shows the power of unleashing your own creativity and just taking the time to yourself to do that. And one of the big key moments in this book is the part about fighting your own villains, such as self-doubt, perfectionism, fear of failure, villains that we all have. Now, if you want a book that will help you open up your creative mind, all the while letting you open up essentially your heart and your issues and knowing that you're not alone. And it's written in a very entertaining tone, written very much like Felicia Day is just talking to you in her witty, cute sarcasm. Yeah, I definitely recommend this book. Hey y'all, Coach Troy here in the editing room. Wanted to remind you that today's episode is sponsored by the Heroes Forge Discord. We talk about fitness, nutrition, motivation, headspace, and we talk about other geek stuff like tabletop gaming, video games, your current shows, cosplay, your next upcoming Comic-Cons, and any other projects, digital or real life, that you're working on. If you want a bunch of like-minded geeks trying to live their best, most badass, most sexy, heroic life, come over to that Discord. The water's fine. And in the meantime, back to the episode. Number 3, Atomic Habits by James Clear. This is the foundation of day-to-day action that's going to get you to the top. This has been a bestseller in every realm of sports, business, and personal development. This is now a go-to book. I would argue that this is going to eventually turn into like a next generation of How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. It's going to be that pivotal because James Clear goes from big picture, such as identity shifting, down to the power of creating systems and habits that will align you to that shifted identity. If you have goals and say, hey, I want to do this, I want the $1 million, I want the rocket six-pack, I want to be so-and-so, I want to be the best, I want to be the very best that no one ever was, you will always do two things: rise to your ambitions and then fall back down to your systems and habits. If you have a good foundation of systems and habits to fall back upon, regardless of where your motivation and your drive is, you will be in the right direction to hit your goals. One of the best parts about this book is it reviews powerful but simple ways to establish new habits to become even just 1% better. My personal favorite habit that I learned from there is called habit stacking, where you throw something you need to do on top of something you already do. For example, I've mentioned in previous Heroes Forge podcast episodes, but there's a lot of times I need to get hydrated, and so I'll drink 10 to 12 ounces of water while my coffee brews, because I'm going to have my coffee no matter what. It's something I've been always doing. I even drink decaf right now, and I don't care. I still need my coffee, but I also need to be hydrated. So I do what I got to do while I wait to do what I want to do. And there's a lot of ways you could stack habits like that. And the big point is, if you're able to streamline the good habits and make the good habits as easy for you to start, and then put enough obstacles and barriers in front of your habits that you want to break, you will slowly shift yourself to your new identity. So yeah, fundamental reading on boots to ground, how to toward your goals so you can eventually go from boots to ground and boots to asses. As I jump to the next book, always just remember one thing, and this is also from the Atomic Habits book. You're either getting 1% better or 1% worse. But here's the good part. 1% worse looks a little something like this, where it's just like a slowly diminishing line. 1% better looks something like this, where it's just exponential growth. It's not going to look like a lot of growth when you begin. But 1% better really, really does. Next book. For my ADHD brain to try to organize things, I recommend the Bullet Journal Method by Ryder Carrol. I have ADHD and I have a busy day. I literally don't have time to write massive pages of a journal. I know everyone's like, journaling's good for you. Journaling helps you put down your thoughts. Journaling's to help you ground yourself. Journaling's great for making you be aligned with your goals. Journaling. Here's the problem. When most people think of journaling, they think of the Diary of Anne fucking Frank. They think of like episodes of Doug. Dear Journal, today was a crazy day. Patty and I went to the music park and I really hope that she fall in love with me the same way I fell in love with her. Go into the whole episode of Doug. Alright, Journal, love Doug. And then that's how every episode of Doug was. It was just a journal. I don't fucking have time to write in a journal like I'm Doug. I don't got time for that. The Bullet Journal Method is a great streamlined journal system that creates both a planner, an executable, an organizer, and an index of thoughts, patterns, and feelings. You're not just making a planner out of nothing. It's a planner, but also room for you to bullet point your journal entries, bullet points your feelings, bullet points your experiences, bullet points your thoughts. The bullet journal method has helped me incredibly, especially with going to therapy, because a lot of times our habits, whether we're either people pleasers or we are very in tune with our emotional states, when we go to therapy, we feel better just showing up. Oh, I go to my therapist. Troy, how you doing? I'm like, I'm doing great right now. But I didn't feel good a few weeks back. And part of me can't even remember what happened a few weeks back. I just remember these feelings because they were so strong. And there's no real easy way for me to dissect them. Boom. If I bullet journal small events and feelings of those events, especially if they're like strong events, like a fight, an argument, an existential crisis, bad flashbacks, good flashbacks, I'll bullet them. I won't even write whole paragraphs of what was going on and how I was feeling. I'll just write the bullet. Because when I take the bullet journal, I have it right here. When I take the bullet journal with me to my therapist's office, obviously I'm feeling good that I'm there, but then I'll be like, what did happen? And I'll see my bullet, and then the thoughts, feelings, and memories will start coming back to me. And I'm like, oh, this happens. Yeah, my partner and I got into this massive fight because I was just feeling massive insecurity about a situation that was happening. And I remember having this belief that was instilled to me by my dad, who was sometimes kind of verbally abusive, and he would always say this to me, and I always remember this, and da-da-da-da-da. So the bullets give me the trigger, the key to unlock the thoughts that my ADHD brain would probably have forgotten without it. So if you like journaling, if you feel like you need the journal but you don't want to like spend hours on it just writing, and by the way, my penmanship sucks, so the less I'm writing on big paragraphs, the better. I definitely would recommend the bullet journal method. Finally, we got The Greatness Mindset by Lewis Howes. I'll admit, I don't have this book. I have the audiobook. I will buy a copy of the book eventually. The way I personally do it is I go through audiobooks first. I never read a book cover to cover. It's just not my style. My reading speed is my speaking speed. And I know there's books out there to teach you how to read faster. But then when I read faster, I don't retain. So my brain has a kind of a safety drag of like, okay, I am reading at the speed I would have spoken it out loud. And that's where it stays, or else it's just skimming. So the way I do books is I get the audiobook version first. I can listen to it at my leisure. I can listen to it when I want. I can listen to it while I'm multitasking. I can listen to it at faster speeds. A lot of times I'll listen to audiobooks at 1.25 or at the slowest 1.15 speed to get through it faster. And then if it has a lot of value, I'm going to buy a hardcover or paperback or print version of that book. So I can then go and bookmark it or highlight it and have a reference to the points of that book on me. And also, it's just there and it reminds me, oh yeah, I did listen to that audiobook. And let me go look back at like a quote. But anyway, I still have yet to buy a copy of The Greatness Mindset, though I just finished the audiobook. Lewis Howes is a very successful podcaster of a podcast called The School of Greatness. It's one of the highest self-development podcasts in the world at a bajillion listens. I didn't keep counts because he's been around for so many years. He's been around at the I'd say the mid 20-teens is when he started coming up and started rising up. And he has written a handful of best-selling best-selling books. And the way I've seen Lewis Howes operate is he will have a guest on the School of Greatness. And it's typically a personal development guest. Somebody talks about health, mental health, relationships, ambition, goal setting, all the self-help stuff. And he would interview them, and he was a great interviewer, and it would be a great episode. And then he'd share that episode, he'd share the social media clips, or the clips on social media. And then he would take the absolute best from his show, compile it together, and create a very streamlined, very complete book. And the cool thing about Lewis Howes is usually when he writes books, it's very action-oriented, where it's like, okay, something about this. Here's a way to set goals. Here's a way to think about something else. This is actionable steps. His writing style is incredibly practical, as if he's just a coach in front of you. Now, the reason why I love Lewis Howes books is that I don't have time to listen to his podcast. They're hour-long episodes every week. He's done thousands. And quite frankly, some of the guests he's had on there aren't the best. You know, when you are in the personal development space, podcasting and interviewing all these experts, sometimes some of those experts are massive Dr. Evil level air quotes. He's an expert on health stuff. Come on, mini-me. And he's had his share of quacks on the show. I mean, he ain't Joe Rogan level as far as like quacks, but he's had his share of shady folks on the show. Usually what happens in the self-development world is that a lot of these authors go on podcasts as their book tour, essentially. Usually when an actor finishes a movie, they have to do talk shows for movie promotion. For these self-development books, these authors go on podcasts for book promotion. And there's so many authors that really should have written books. And they make it on the show, and quite frankly, I cannot keep up with that many episodes. I can't disseminate the whacks and quacks from the real McCoys. The author just seems to do it for me. And so the very best of the best of that information he's got on that show is in the book he writes every handful of years. And the thing about the author, I don't always agree with everything he does, but we match the same demographic. In fact, we're probably only a handful of years apart. He's just slightly older than me. So he's like, young X while I'm elder millennial. But he is a fellow, cis male who has came face to face with his own masculinity. And he's gotten his own help. He's gotten his own self-development. He's got his own level of self-awareness. And I connect with a lot of the author's experiences, his insecurities, and his insights. There's many times where I read his previous book, The Mask of Masculinity, and there's times I agree with it and there's times I don't. And sometimes it's based on feelings. Those thoughts will fluctuate. But I just really see that. I see a lot of connection with the author and how he does things. He's not an Olympic level athlete. He was on the USA national handball team. I don't know if that's an Olympic sport, but it's definitely an international sport. So he's an international athlete. He was a former AFL athlete, Arena Football League athlete. He's not jock enough to be a fuckboy, and he's not cocky enough to be a expert know-it-all. He's got that hungriness, that drive, and that humbleness about him that, I could definitely respect. But yeah, The Greatness Mindset by Lewis Howes. A good kind of manual on self-development in 2023. So those are the top 5 books that I've read in 2023, which will help gear me up for an even better 2024. If you have other book ideas, go ahead and show them in the comments. If you have any questions, spit them in the comments. If this video was valuable to you, like and subscribe. And if you want another inspiring story about finding your own inner sexy badass, check out this interview I did a few months back with Nora Jane Ivy Eyes, combined cosplayer and pole dancer and all around sexy geek badass. You would not be disappointed. Go ahead and tap that button for that interview. I'll see you there.